Blackwood, a city perpetually shrouded in mist, its cobblestone streets slick with a dampness that seeped into your bones. The fog wasn't just weather. It was an entity, clinging to the city like a shroud. It whispered secrets on the wind, secrets that sent shivers down your spine. The buildings, old and imposing, loomed over you, their shadows stretching long and hungry in the fading light. Even in the daytime, the sun struggled to pierce through the oppressive atmosphere. Its rays, weak and anemic, cast an unsettling pallor over everything. The inhabitants, their faces etched with a weary resignation, moved like specters through the fog. They knew the truth about Blackwood. They felt it in the marrow of their bones. This was a place where darkness lingered, where shadows held their breath, and where the unseen watched with hungry eyes. The air itself hummed with an unspoken tension, a feeling that something was deeply, unsettlingly wrong. Blackwood was a city holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable exhale of terror. Detective Amelia Hayes was no stranger to the darkness. She had spent years navigating the shadows, both within herself and in the world around her. It clung to her like a second skin, a constant reminder of a past that refused to be buried. Every corner she turned, every case she took on, the darkness was there, lurking. The death of her parents, a gruesome unsolved case, had left an indelible mark on her soul. It was a wound that never healed, a mystery that haunted her every waking moment. It was this haunting that drove her, fueled her need to bring justice to the shadows that lurked in Blackwood's heart. She had vowed to never let another soul suffer the same fate. When the disappearances began, Amelia was the first to notice the pattern. She saw the connections that others missed, the threads that wove a sinister tapestry. It wasn't the vanishing itself that chilled her blood. It was the eerie reappearance. The way the missing returned, not as they were, but as something else entirely. The missing individuals would return, their bodies intact but empty, hollowed-out shells devoid of life. It was as if their very essence had been drained, leaving behind only a husk. Their eyes, once filled with warmth and vitality, were now vacant, staring into a void only they could see. It was a sight that sent shivers down Amelia's spine. The city dismissed it as mass hysteria, a shared delusion fueled by Blackwood's inherent eeriness. They couldn't see the truth that was right in front of them, but Amelia knew better. She had seen the terror in the eyes of the returned, felt the icy grip of an unseen evil tightening around the city's throat. She knew this was no ordinary case. This was no delusion. This was something far more sinister, something that whispered of ancient evils and unspeakable horrors. It was a darkness that had been waiting, biding its time. This was the work of the Skin Taker, an entity that thrived on fear and despair, feeding off the souls of the innocent. Amelia knew she had to stop it, no matter the cost. essence of Blackwood. Section 4, Echoes of the Skin Taker, delving into Blackwood's dark mythology. Amelia, driven by an insatiable need for answers, delved into Blackwood's murky past. Her quest was not just a search for knowledge, but a desperate attempt to uncover the truth behind the chilling events that had begun to plague the city. She scoured dusty archives, her fingers tracing over faded newspaper clippings and brittle pages of forgotten lore. Each piece of information she uncovered seemed to weave a more intricate and terrifying tapestry of the city's dark history. The legend of the Skin Taker, a creature that preyed on human sorrow, whispered through the city's history like a malevolent wind. This sinister entity was more than just a story. It was a shadow that had loomed over Blackwood for generations. It was said to be a shapeshifter, a being of pure darkness that could assume the form of its victims, wearing their skin as a macabre disguise. This ability to transform made it nearly impossible to detect, allowing it to blend seamlessly into the fabric of the city. It fed on grief, on despair, seeking out those who had suffered a recent loss, their hearts ripe with vulnerability. The Skin Taker thrived in the shadows, drawn to the sorrowful cries of the bereaved, feeding on their pain and amplifying their suffering. The legend spoke of the Skin Taker's chilling touch, a coldness that seeped into your bones, stealing your essence, leaving behind a hollow imitation. This touch was said to be unmistakable, a harbinger of doom for those unfortunate enough to encounter it. The stories were fragmented, passed down through generations, each telling imbued with a fresh layer of terror. Around campfires and in hushed whispers, the tale of the Skin Taker grew, each retelling adding new horrors to its already fearsome reputation. But for Amelia, these whispers from the past held a terrifying ring of truth. The more she read, the more she felt the weight of the legend pressing down on her, as if the Skin Taker itself was watching her every move. They resonated with the chilling reality unfolding before her very eyes. The eerie occurrences in Blackwood seemed to mirror the ancient tales, blurring the line between myth and reality. The Skin Taker wasn't just a myth, it was a living nightmare, and it was stalking the fog-laden streets of Blackwood. Amelia knew that uncovering the truth was her only hope of stopping the terror that had gripped the city, but the deeper she delved, the more she realized the true horror of what she was up against. Section 5. The Masks We Wear, Unveiling the Imposters Among Us. As Amelia delved deeper into the disappearances, a horrifying realization dawned on her. The returned, those empty shells mimicking life, they weren't the victims. They were the Skin Taker. It was wearing their faces, their memories, their very lives as a twisted mockery of humanity. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. How many of these imposters walked among them, their true nature hidden beneath a stolen facade? How many unsuspecting souls had welcomed the monster into their homes, mistaking it for a loved one lost and now returned? The city was a stage, and the Skin Taker was a master performer, manipulating its victims with chilling precision. It was a puppeteer, its strings of fear and despair controlling the movements of its puppets. Amelia knew she was racing against time. Each passing moment, another life could be extinguished, another soul claimed by the Skin Taker's insidious touch. Section 6. A city gripped by fear. The shadow of the Skin Taker looms. Fear, a palpable entity, seeped through the cobblestone streets of Blackwood. It clung to the fog, whispering in the wind, a constant reminder of the unseen terror that lurked within their midst. The disappearances had become a gruesome spectacle, a macabre performance that left the city reeling in terror. The once bustling streets were now deserted after nightfall, the echoes of footsteps a chilling reminder of the city's vulnerability. Trust, once a cornerstone of their community, crumbled under the weight of suspicion. Neighbors eyed each other with distrust, their faces etched with fear. Every shadow held the potential for menace, every encounter a possible prelude to disappearance. The Skin Taker had woven its terror into the very fabric of their lives, turning their beloved city into a prison of their own making. Blackwood, once a place of quiet charm, was now a city held hostage by its own fear.